Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, Doom Nation? Welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. It is Friday night, so kick back and enjoy yourself. As always, your host, good old Scagz, and yours truly, El Capitan. And I guess we'll get the bullshit out of the way first with Biden and jump right into the RNC, huh? Yeah. How you doing, pal? It's been a week since we last reconvened.
Yeah, Sunday morning to Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a week chock full of information, of news. Republican National Convention occurred.
An exhausting week. That's why I'm back to drinking on camera because.
Oh, yeah. And Biden,
I am
rumors
exhausted.
of him dropping out. Captain wanted to start with Biden and the rumors of him dropping out before we get into the meat and potatoes of the RNC, J.D. Vance getting picked as Trump's VP. Yeah. Still some conversation around the assassination that will always be following up on, I feel like. Hulk Hogan. We got a lot to get
Lord
into.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah, even makes an appearence here tonight, folks.
It's going to be an episode, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Cap, let's go, man. I know you wanted to start with the with
the Biden rumors. Yeah. This has been the most exhausting, drama-filled, Democratic loon bullshit I've ever seen in my life. If I didn't hate the Democratic Party enough, they've managed to make me hate them more. Because just daily now, it is people close to the Biden campaign, donors say, blah, 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 Biden's going to step down. And then it got into this, well, he's not going to run, but he's going to remain president, and he's not going to step down, but he's not going to endorse Kamala. And then he took it back, and no, he's running for president. It has gone back about 4 or 5 times now in this past week alone, and I'm exhausted with it. Either drop out, or don't. You know what I mean? Like, enough of this. Now they're just using it to try and get media coverage. Just a talking point on the media as far as I'm concerned. And they're acting like they don't have the 25th Amendment. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. They're giving him the opportunity. But look, if this isn't going to move forward with him in the driver's seat, get him out. The jig's up. You lied. He's the most popular president ever. Look how fast the party has turned on the most popular president ever. There is no real information coming out of the White House anymore. It's a disaster.
As if there ever was. Yeah, don't disappoint me now, Captain. Yeah, come on.
True. I mean, after Saturday, honestly, they should have just flown Trump to the White House and just resume your duties. You're taking office. The election's over. Like, they don't want Biden in the White House anymore anyway. Just it's getting out of control. I am so spent with the back and forth.
I always find it interesting how you look at things. I find it fun. It's fun to see them in complete disarray. The rumor has been that that Biden was planning to drop out as early as this weekend, perhaps Sunday.
Yeah.
But now you're right. Like almost any time one of these stories comes out, within minutes, there's a counter story kind of refuting that. I was texting you guys, as we always are, where we sharing ideas and thoughts with Garrett and you before the show. And I was saying, man, I'm like, this is basically a psyop, like everything else is.
But directed at
the Biden team, perhaps the family, the people who want him to stay in charge. And they're just going to keep the pressure on by keeping this kind of media circus and back and forth. You think like you're frustrated and kind of exhausted by it. Imagine how they feel, where this is now the only thing everyone is asking them. The guy is being kept up probably past his bedtime at 4 p.m.
So 9 a.m.
Stressed out about everyone, pressuring him to drop out. The news was, I believe, that Chuck Schumer met with them and tried to convince him to drop out. Adam Schiff changed his tune from about a week ago, basically now saying, he's got to drop out and we got to, have an open convention and get 3 or 4 good candidates up there and let them go at it. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. Gives us something to talk about too.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's great to see the party in disarray. I was listening to PBD and brought up an interesting point on like this, we need to replace Biden nonsense. After last Saturday's events, one thing in politics, doesn't matter who you're really owned by or who you owe or anything like that. A lot of politicians don't want to throw their hat into an arena that's going to make that they're most likely going to lose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So shooting your load before you're there. In a sense. It's look, Ron DeSantis is a great example of that, right? He's in trouble now, but his political career going forward because of what he did that he's a good example of that, kind of like getting into it before he should have, perhaps. Yeah.
And, now you got to look at like Newsom or I think Whitmer is truly just a soulless hag, so I don't think it really matters. But like you take somebody like Gavin Newsom, who he's this pretty boy and his past and his record kind of matters to him, even though they could swipe it under the rug. But like going up against Trump, knowing that you're probably going to lose, you don't want to take that bet. Like outside of Trump, no one should want to replace Biden.
It's a tall task.
Yeah, because on top of it, if you win, there's still people not happy with the country. If you lose, you look like an idiot, and you lost to Trump, and nobody in D.C. wants to say that they lost to Trump. The party is about to be disenfranchised. So do you want your name? Somebody like Newsom is young. He could wait another 4 more years to run.
Which is exactly what he's probably planning on.
Exactly.
Planning on doing. Yeah.
The guy's young enough. He could wait for the next election. No problem. Do you want your name to be on the losing ticket and your name is the one that disenfranchised the party?
Yeah. This is why you're just making more sense as to why I think Kamala Harris is the perfect pick. Yeah. I think we talked about it a little bit last week. And if not, we've been texting about it constantly. The fact that she has the war chest, all the money that the Biden campaign has raised, she would be able to keep and then use for herself in the few months left up against the election. Your point that you're kind of getting burned because you're going up against Trump. You think they care about Kamala Harris? She's a terrible candidate.
No. The establishment doesn't. The individual does.
No. What I'm saying is that they'll be okay with burning Kamala Harris because she is an awful candidate. So I think the most sense is to pass the ball to her, give her the war chest. I was talking to you. I was saying, give her $60 million or whatever's in their campaign budget right now, and just cut 50 videos all about identity politics. I'd be the first Black woman president in the history of the United States. What can be unburdened about what has been, and they can make sure they could take 1,000 different takes at filming it so that it comes out as best as possible. So she's having those like weird, goofy moments. And they just put those out there and they just lean as heavily as they possibly can into the identity politics game. And they try and like rally women around it. They try and rally the NPCs, right? Who are somewhat
That's all they're gonna get,
right? But they need that, right? They're not going to win if they don't get the people who are their, blue,
their bread and butter,
diehard blue voters. But I do feel like some of them are demoralized because of how bad Biden's been. This is not everybody, but some. Like, how are you going to get them to actually come out and vote? Lean as hard as you can into the identity politics aspect of it. The first black woman president ever running against a convicted felon who is a rapist against women. Like, the storyline that they could go with, it has some value, and then they would have the money to kind of like push that talking point. And then if she loses, she's a terrible candidate. We burn her and move on in the next couple of years.
It's funny because she is genuinely, the problem with her is she's genuinely the most unpopular person in all of Washington. She's more unpopular than Joe Biden. She's more incompetent than Joe Biden. So it's pretty funny to see the Democratic Party backed into this corner, and they're left. You want to talk about piss poor policies coming back to bite you in the fucking ass? Excuse me for cursing this early in the show.
We're 10 minutes in. We made it.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. I want to talk about piss poor policies biting you in the ass. They are left with a unpopular 1% polling DEI pick.
Yeah.
Okay?
She is the DEI candidate too. Like, she was chosen because she's a black woman, right? Or a woman of color. She wasn't chosen because she was the best at any sort of thing.
Exactly.
She was literally, Biden explicitly chose her because of her identity. So I just chalk it up to they should just go all in, push all their chips into the center of the table, and go run with that as best they can.
Let's see if DEI really works.
We got a comment here from Rebecca Ellis. Let's see. In a democratic constitutional republic like the United States, with the people vote to choose our candidates. The people of this country chose Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, Democrat Party want to try to remove him from the ticket, like so many other things they've done. This is anti-American and against democracy. Rebecca, I agree with you in principle. However, I disagree with you because that ain't what America is about. Especially the Democratic Party, ironically, calling themselves a Democratic Party. They have that super delegate system where a couple hundred party insiders are really the ones who get to choose the candidate. Go back to 2016 with Bernie Sanders and him getting screwed over and all that stuff. So that's the way it always has worked. One of the things I'll credit Trump and this whole movement with is bringing that to light in some way, kind of like, shaking people's view of things. It never has been, yay, like, I'm going to put my best ideas up against your best ideas, and then we're going to have a good old-fashioned paper ballot count. And whoever makes the better argument, that's who's going to be in charge.
Because that's not how the government works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe that worked how it work like the second time around.
1778.
Jefferson and Adams, right? But it didn't take long for things went off the rails. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
thanks
for sure.
For comment, Rebecca. Appreciate it.
Yep, and that's why I keep bringing up the fact Democratic Party's about to be disenfranchised.
Good.
So and they deserve it, and they're stuck with the DEI pick. So let's see how that pans out. Speaking as we're going to get into vice president talk, I think the funny thing is it's going to really come down to if they choose Kamala, they have to have an absolute powerhouse of a VP pick.
Oh God, who could it be? Do you want to
Hillary Clinton?
I don't
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton.
Let's save the speculation for who Kamala's VP pick is for another episode because we're already 15 minutes in here, and I got a lot of other more important shit I want to talk about.
All right, so we're done with the bullshit.
Yeah.
On to the RNC. Let's go to Milwaukee.
Or let's maybe just kind of maybe we'll start with kind of some updates around the shooting, right? Because we promised that we would keep in on that. What was the most interesting thing you think so far that we've heard after we recorded at least last Sunday?
I have a lot of stuff to unpack here. Trump said something last night that floored me. I didn't think of it till now. And it makes me a proud Trump supporter, proud member of MAGA. Hillary Clinton will have a nervous breakdown. Yes, she will. Trump said, when the shooting took place, anytime there's a shooting, a mass shooting in a school, a mall, a gangland violence at a gas station, everybody takes off running. But at this rally, this psychopath took shots at Trump, and MAGA stood its fucking ground for Donald J. Trump. Sounds culty. It sounds culty, and I don't disagree with that sentiment. But they love this man. This country loves this man so much that even with bullets flying overhead, 20, 30,000 people stood their ground. They turned around and started blaming the media. They were trying to point out the shooters. If they could, I truly believe if they could have done something to prevent, to knock this shooter out and somebody got their hands on him, they would have. It's got to be a scary sight to be Trump's operative and to watch this man take shots on live TV, and his followers are unfazed. They didn't run. They did not run. It is one of the most incredible things to think about when you get down to it. You know what I mean? Trump lived, so we're not sitting here mourning or nothing. And he got up and he, fight, and all these pictures came out of it. No one ran. That's crazy.
I agree. I completely forgot that he even pointed that out.
Yeah.
It's weird because it was something that I noticed, but I didn't think about for some reason.
Because he lived. He lived. He lived,
so
that all took the back. Yeah.
It's a key observation, I'd say, by Donald Trump to kind of repoint that out after the fact. I do think it's pretty cool, right? It really does show that he is a beloved figure, right? And he has a base of fans who are loyal to him, and they do love him.
Unwavering.
Some people literally died. Corey Comparator, I forget his name. Corey Comparator, right?
Yeah.
Gindaloon here, unfortunately, lost his life.
Let's put it this way. Me and you love Metallica. We go to a Metallica concert. If shots pop off,
I'm out of there. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Great observation, man. It doesn't surprise me either. We know die-hard Trump support.
Yeah. Some of the other things. Sorry, do you want to say something or?
Oh, I was just going to go in with my observation, but go ahead. What are some of the other things?
So some of my other observations is Democrats. I finally agree with you on something. The bandage is a bit much. It's a big zin. And Democrats, welcome to the conspiracy party. My God, it's only taken you 7-8 years to get here. On the last episode, I admit it, I'm conspiratorial. If you've listened to the show at all, you understand that that's how my mind works. I did bring up, do you think Trump, could have set this up? Do you think this could have been a false flag to put Trump in a better light? Kind of hard to do. People died. I can't see him allowing his own people to die. The expertly placed shot to just hit his ear, or it was fake and movie. So many cameras were on him. So many pictures were taken. I don't really see how. There's even the picture of a bullet flying past his head. After last week in our conversation on Sunday, I put that behind me. But for the left, finally, all the school shootings, you don't say a word. January 6th, the pipe bomber never being found. Everything you see on mainstream media is always 100% true to these people. Now there's a hoax. Now there's a conspiracy. You fucking losers.
It's interesting. I don't have any problem with questioning it. I've seen it's not even just on the left. I'm seeing guys like Sam Tripoli and Top Lobster are completely convinced that it was staged by the Trump campaign to boost his poll numbers, and kind of pointing to how people's minds are changing. Like today I saw Mark Zuckerberg was like, Trump holding his hand up after that was pretty badass. I don't know, man. I think sometimes, like I said in the last episode, would Hitler wanted to have assassinated Stalin and vice versa? Yeah. Right. It's a, if you chart it out, like Tucker Carlson said, it just makes sense. It doesn't mean that he's all of a sudden the good guy or the hero or something. Mm-hmm. You have criticisms of him or anything like that. It just makes sense. And it's still in of itself a conspiracy theory. So now you're just like, Inception conspiracy theory. You know, like, no, I'm more of a conspiracy theorist than you are. And then I have to wonder how many people are just basing their entire identity off of being a conspiracy theorist. So you have to be like, you always have to be the cutting edge conspiracy theorist guy that's a step beyond everybody else.
And this was a big thing to cover. So conspiracy comes with it.
How much of that is like organic or being honest? When, like, I mean, me and you were just kind of giving our honest take. Makes sense. They'd want to kill him. Doesn't mean he's perfect. Doesn't mean he's everything MAGA thinks he is, right? But it just makes sense. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
And then what was that? What was I going to finish up with here? Just the response time, the amount of people that pointed out the shooter. Secret Service sold him down the river. Department of Homeland Security, I really feel, has something, a hand in this. They had all the DEI pick agents on him that day. They didn't have a roof. The roof being too slopey.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Mind-numbing. There's a picture of an FBI agent up there hosing off the blood of the shooter. Give me a break. And my final comment is, I think this whole idea. So the media narrative is this was a lone, crazed gunman that took this into his own hands. He was working alone, but somehow had encrypted accounts and all these phones and no social media footprint and nothing like that. Obviously, he was not working alone. That's the conspiracy. Right. The media gave you a story. That's the conspiracy to debunk. How is I going to put this now? Shit. I had a good point.
Well, I mean, I'll piggyback off of you're saying, they've reported that he had.
I'm sorry. I got it. I feel that is a form of propaganda at this point. By continuously pointing out that it's a lone gunman. Because remember, they had that sniper on CNN, and the CNN or MSNBC, whatever, was saying how there was so many errors on the Secret Service's behalf. How could this kid have been working alone and all this stuff? And she, the host, she was flabbergasted that he would mention something outside of the mainstream narrative.
How dare you go outside the Overton window?
Exactly. They're doing this because they're getting the message out there. A lone gunman can get a shot off on our biggest adversary. I'm praying for a speedy recovery. This country has no place for political violence, but Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy, so he must be eliminated. However, in the same breath, they are saying this stuff. So I really feel that it could be a form of media propaganda to try and enable some other loon. Hey, take a shot. We got his ear this time. Just need to be another millimeter, a second quicker, and we'd have him.
Yeah, it's only Friday, so it hasn't even been a week yet, and I have seen that they reverted back to the existential threat talk.
Yeah.
And again, when you say that sort of thing, which I have a clip here of AOC saying that, if you're going to compare him to Hitler and say he's an existential threat to our way of life, then you are rationalizing and saying it's okay to try and kill him, right? Like if you were literally to tell me, if I just somehow knew, if I was an all-knowing God, that this person was literally the reincarnation of Hitler with this grandmaster plan and the means to do it, to do a second coming of the Nazi Germany, it'd be justified to try and get rid of that person one way or another. And that's what they're telling you over and over again, especially if you're watching mainstream news. So the thing that I thought was the most interesting is the 3 foreign accounts that he had. That they mentioned. There was like a Senate testimony that they're talking about. And earlier in the week, they said that Iran had a plan to assassinate him. Yeah. So there's 3
Iran
things.
Always has a plan.
Iran had a plan to assassinate him. There's 3 foreign accounts and a new recent talking point saying that Iran is, I believe, 2 weeks away from developing a missile capable of delivering a nuclear weapon, like an ICBM missile. So within not even a week, Iran has been kind of referenced or quasi-referenced 3 times regarding the assassination of Donald Trump, who is the chief country in the sights of the neocon establishment, Iran.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Trump doesn't like Iran either. It makes sense they try and nudge him in that direction. And maybe try and convince him, hey, maybe it was them. You remember you assassinated Qasem Soleimani, the general, right? The guy in charge of the whole force. So it makes sense, even if you want to try and psyop Trump, Hey, it was them.
Yeah.
They had something to do with it. They radicalized this kid's
And
Brooks.
and think
something like
this.
that.
Think of this. Trump is hell bent on ending the war in Ukraine, hell bent on ending the war in Israel. The military industrial complex isn't going to have a war.
Needs to be fed.
Generals and military liaisons have lied to Trump before. We've caught generals lying and going behind Trump's back. So yeah, let's try. They tricked George Bush into starting a 20-year war. Let's try and trick Donald Trump into starting war with Iran if he gets elected.
Yeah, I'm still not sold that there's certain things he can't be convinced of, depending on the topic or the thing. So here's AOC. I referenced that I had a clip queued up. Let's see what she had to say yesterday.
Is that everybody is terrified of a Trump presidency?
No, we're not.
Everybody wants to do everything and anything possible to prevent that from happening. And I think that regardless of your position on that, I think an overwhelming amount of people are motivated by that. Do everything and anything possible. Do everything and anything possible to prevent.
What are you talking about? What are you referencing? Everything and anything? What are you like? Read between the lines. What are you saying there? She's essentially kind of giving a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Dare I say a dog whistle to left-wing folk that perhaps what happened was justified, and we should continue to consider things like that in order to stop Trump. I don't know.
At the end, with last night's what is it? Crowd strike. Yeah. With that going down and all the planes coming out of the sky, not that they were falling out of the sky, all the planes being grounded and all that, we're susceptible to a number of different types of attacks or inconveniences. And, they tried to assassinate Trump's character. They tried to jail him. They tried to kill him. What's next? If I was behind all this, I'd start going after the people Trump loves, whether it's his family or his base. They, at 2020, not that they started COVID. I know we're on YouTube, God forbid, but
Destiny is still on YouTube though, after having absolutely no problem with Comparatorial over there and basically advocating for more of what we just saw. Destiny's still on YouTube. He's banned on everything else, but YouTube. Destiny's still on there, still doing his thing.
So me and you have our opinions about COVID. We got that for the last election. What could possibly be coming down the pipeline? I think the next attack on Trump ain't going to be an attack on Trump. I think it's going to be an attack on civilization, the way we live life. It's going to just be harder to move about or live a normal life until, hold America hostage until Trump steps down.
I don't think so. I disagree with that. But I think the next move is just to get Biden out of there and try something different. But I don't think that there can't be other escalations in the future. I don't think they're willing to go to that.
I do.
Length just yet, because they might get enough out of Trump that they want. And we'll cover some of that here in the next segment here, or the next half of our podcast. Thought we could talk a little bit now about his speech in general. And so first of all, Cap, I know we were texting, and it was like midnight when it was over. It was a long speech.
I couldn't tell you how he ended that speech. I sat there, I watched the whole thing, but the last quarter of it, couldn't tell you a single thing he said.
Yeah, it was, I believe, I felt like it was 2 hours, but it was, I think, an hour and a half plus a little bit more. I was thinking, and most of it was everything I'd heard already. I thought there was some, he sounded different. Like he sounded like this whole scenario has changed him a bit, his kind of perspective on life. I thought the entire RNC in general was
amazing.
It was interesting. It was much more fun than the Libertarian convention that we normally go. So the fact that
Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, there was an energy there for sure. The fact that they were playing music in between speeches was a great idea also, to make a quasi concert on top of a political rally.
I'll say it because I laughed my ass off when I said it last night. We are in a new timeline. There's been a time convergence. What was it in Loki when it's like an absolute time or something like that?
Absolute point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trump was supposed to die. You know, when Harambe got shot.
Yeah, that was
in
one of those.
2016, it put us on a new timeline. And when Trump survived, we had entered another timeline. Because between Hulk Hogan, I was floored when I saw Hulk Hogan start ripping his shirt off. And then Kid Rock came out.
Yeah, it got better. Let's play Hulk Hogan here just for fun here, folks.
Yes.
The boring
Trumpomania.
But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
I tell you, man, he hasn't lost it, Hulk Hogan. He's still a great showman.
What an entertainer.
Yeah, there was an energy. There was like a celebrity energy to it. You know,
It's Trumpomania.
I know you're a big wrestling guy, so I figured you would have really enjoyed that one. There's just something about it, I have to say. Even Van Jones and CNN mentioned, he's like, there's just something about this this whole convention. There's like an energy here that reminded him of Obama's 2008 election and his convention. There definitely was a special energy.
I still think 50 Cent should have showed up to play Many Men.
That's funny. 50 Cent is a businessman. He's still trying to see where he could get some leverage to benefit himself. I know what 50 Cent's up to. He's very intelligent.
Looking to make money.
Yeah, exactly. So Trump's speech, going back to how long it was, I gather you had a hard time staying up as I did, right? Towards the end. It was late. It was almost midnight when it was over. I got kids, by usually after you do bedtime and all that stuff, you're exhausted. It started late too. I don't think he started
at like 11.
I don't think he started speaking till 10. So me and you had a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
You know who definitely had a hard time keeping up with it? Joe Biden. You know who didn't have a hard time at all? Donald Trump.
Yep.
I think that's why he was out there so long, and that's why he started so late, and that's why it was odd to me how late it started, how long it was. I think he was trying to make a point without explicitly making a point.
Yeah. A subtle point.
Like, I can stay out late. I could talk for an hour and a half, and when it's over, I'm good. Meanwhile, you guys who are in your mid-30s are half asleep and whatnot. The other guy, everyone knows there was no way he would be able to do something like that. So I thought he was trying to make a subtle point in that regard. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. It just shows what you're going to get. It's going to be hard for me to watch it if I watch it at all. I'll definitely watch it if they're replacing Biden, but I am interested now to see what the DNC is going to do. Because, if you give us this vanilla fucking, convention and it's just crickets and, just compromised Hollywood celebrities coming up on stage saying, Biden's our guy. It's going to be weird if they don't replace Biden now, because then at the DNC, everybody's going to have to promote him. So a week ago, you were replacing him and he's got to go. And now he's your Lord and Savior because you're at the DNC and he's the nominee. Polytainment, political entertainment is something on the horizon.
Hey, our numbers are even up from this whole thing. As it goes up, people are more interested. I watched a little bit extra, like before of the RNC, and I quickly noticed that like the theme of what everyone, there was a lot of speakers all day, people giving speeches. The theme was everyone was appealing to Trump's humanity in the wake of him being shot. One of his granddaughters spoke. It was a nice speech. Even Dana White at the end shared Trump's text message to him where Trump was being considerate of like, I'm making a big ask for you. Dana White was nervous. I don't know if you noticed too. His hands was shaking when he was giving the speech. That's a big ask for Dana White. It's outside his normal realm of thing he does. And he, shared how Trump was being considerate of the big ask he was making. It's his family, I think, breaking up their vacation or something like that. Hearing stories about Trump, a lot of stories about Trump with his family. I don't doubt any of that stuff. I do think that Donald Trump with his family and whatnot, he actually is probably a pretty good dude. And I thought in the wake of that, they were like, I think the theme, the strategy they went into after his brains nearly got blown out was to show people, calm down. This is not the evil Hitler everyone makes him out to be. He's actually a grandpa. He's actually considerate to most people that he's friends with. And he's actually a pretty nice dude. And I thought that was like the general theme. And even the theme that he himself had in his speech, it wasn't as divisive as he can be at times. It wasn't as combative as it could be at times. He was like soft-spoken, calm. He paid respects to the guy who lost his life to firefighter comparator. He tried to harp on being unifying.
Yeah, it's definitely a new strategy. This is something I said towards the end of his first term. 2016, maybe we were going to go to World War III. Maybe women were going to lose their rights. Maybe Trump was going to bring back slavery. And we were going to have this white supremacy country that just murders minorities all around the planet. Just so happens that's what Obama did. But, and I always said, like, when he runs again, how are you going to sit there and say he's a racist when you had record black employment under his administration, when he didn't enslave no one, when he didn't drop any N-bombs, when he didn't do any of these gross, disgusting acts that you were so sure he was going to do? Everything that they said Trump was going to do, Biden's done. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I think like we're in a new era of Trump's campaign where it's not going to work anymore. For mainstream media just lost one of their biggest guns. Because if you're going to be mainstream media and you're going to sit there and say he's literally Hitler after someone tried to kill him, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. And there's a lot of Democrats out there and a lot of anti-Trump people with Trump derangement syndrome wishing that he died. There's sick people out there. I get it. But for the majority of Americans, you're working 9 to 5, maybe even longer. Your groceries are expensive. You got 2 kids in school. You're just trying to make sure they're not getting bullied, that they're trying to get good grades. You're trying to bring in money. And to see what happened, you're like, oh, my God, this is terrible. And then to tune into your news channel and them still be doing this rhetoric when it's not like that anymore. When you can see it's not like that.
And then when you see him, he's like acting differently. He's acting. Yeah. You're seeing the stories about him being a good grandpa and a family man. And you're seeing him on there talking about, like, look, we need to unify. Please stop doing what you guys have been trying to do, and it's only hurtful. I do think the strategy is to appeal to normies, to appeal to the general population and convince enough of them, I'm not what I was made out to be. Yeah. You should vote for me, and I'll be able to fix a couple things in the country without necessarily explicitly saying it that way. It's like he's a great marketer. I have to hand it to him. He really is. Maybe the best of all time. The best. Yeah. Right? So I think that is what it is. I'm not even saying that I don't believe any of those things. I just said I do think he is probably a pretty good grandpa and all that stuff, right? I think marketing strategy-wise, they realize, like, okay, here's the avenue we're going to take. We're going to lean into these aspects, and hopefully that will convince enough normal people who aren't the drone, NPCs to actually show up and vote for me on election day.
And think of this, the RNC took place after a botched assassination. Everybody, unless you are, unless you live under a rock in a desert in Africa or something, you knew this took place. Think how many more people tuned into the RNC to see Trump talk, whether you hate him or not. You know what I mean? Like, even if you hate him, you still might be inclined.
Or people were probably looking to see what he had to say after that, which is this was his first public speech since then. They knew that, right? So they were like, "This is a big moment here. We got to capitalize on an appeal to the general population.
Let me ask you, would literally Hitler come out and pay homage to a fallen firefighter and have his granddaughter up there, or would he go up there and start, this is the guillotine, we're going to use it,
Yeah, he probably would, to be honest with you. Probably, he was a very fiery, vindictive, hostile dude. Yeah. So that's a whole.
And it's also funny.
That could be a whole other episode here, Cap. I don't want to get into.
It's funny if you think about it. On top, will Trump seek revenge? Can he seek revenge? The shooter was killed. Who was behind it? The FBI is doing their investigation, but yet they spoken to the police officers who denied these people, saying there's a gunman up on that roof, and they're going, oh no, shut up. You know what you're talking about. But it's going to be weird. It's going to be a stain on the mainstream media's agenda to continue doing this, because my point with the revenge thing is, you damn well know if Trump does seek some type of revenge, the media would be like, he's a vengeful maniac. Right. He's a murderous psychopath. Yeah. It doesn't matter that they tried to kill him first. It matters that he's going to do something.
If he came out with fire and fury against the shooter, like, we got to get revenge on people that are trying to kill me, and let's go, hoorah, like, let's go and overthrow whatever. Yeah, right. Then he's almost then kind of like
playing right into their hands.
Yeah, and becoming the caricature that they've made of him, right? Yeah. Instead, he's doing the opposite. No, I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to try and be calm, cool, collected, and not divisive. And he was even, I think, one of the most telling parts of that, how he was kind of thanking the Secret Service after all said and done. If you don't believe it was a conspiracy or something like that, at the minimum, it was negligence, gross negligence, in trying to protect the president, right? And instead of throwing them under the bus or anything, he was like, look, they're brave people that put their lives on the line to do, all that stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting.
I still laugh at how
he's a great politician. I can't take it away from him.
I still laugh at how Saturday he had the DEI squad of all these women who can't even holster their weapon and were hiding behind Trump, yet alone trying to protect him. And then when he showed up at the RNC on Thursday, it looked like the WWE locker room showed up with him. Yeah. He's 6'3", and everybody was bigger than him.
All right. One of the other really interesting, like I said, most of the speech was as per the par. This part stuck out to me the most of the entire thing, where he appears to take a shot at the president of El Salvador.
Yeah, so this is more in line with you, where he's like, we're going to have the convention in Venezuela, right?
Let's play it. And
I don't know exactly.
Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up, while crime statistics all over the world are going down, because they're taking their criminals and they're putting them into our country, a certain country, and I happen to like the president of that country very much, but he's been getting great publicity because he's a wonderful shepherd of the country. He says how well the country's doing because their crime rate is down. And he said he's training all of these rough people. They're rough. He's training them. And I've been reading about this for 2 years. I think, oh, that's wonderful. Let's take a look at it. But then I realized he's not training them. He's sending all of his criminals, his drug dealers, his people that are in jails, he's sending them all to the United States. And he's different in that he doesn't say that. He's trying to convince everybody what a wonderful job he does in running the country. Well, he doesn't do a wonderful job. And by the way, if I ran one of the countries, many countries from all over, I would be worse than any of them. I would have had the place totally emptied out already.
So who's he talking about? He is talking about El Salvador. He's talking about the last 2 years, the guy who's become very popular. He's talking about Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, who has, gotten the country to become the safest place in South America from the most dangerous place.
It's kind of shocked me. Yeah. So what shocked me was the statistic that he was like, crime's down. He's like, murder in South America is down by 70% because all the murderers are here now. And I was like, what is going to happen? Is there going to be some like vigilante purge night or something? And all these, illegal people that showed up, all these, crazies are just going to come out in the God mask that was on the purge.
Who knows, man? Nayib Bukele, the president, says taking the high road. He tweeted after he must have heard this.
You keep doing that, pal.
I see. It's interesting. I'm wondering why Trump decided to do this. Bukele actually He was interviewed by Tucker. He gave a speech at CPAC. He's been nothing but complimentary of Trump and kind of like the attempt here to try and fix America. I think maybe Trump was like, my take is there was a little bit of that ego in there. It's like, hey, buddy, don't forget, I'm fucking top dog here in this realm, not you, your little country of El Salvador. And I think maybe Trump was reminding him, like, your meteoric rise in the conservative space. I'm still in charge here, not you. I do think it's a bit dishonest, I'll be honest with you. Knowing a little bit and being kind of keeping my eye on El Salvador. I got, people, family that's not my family, but my wife's family and whatnot, and hearing about the place. It's an interesting case study on how you stop dystopian nightmare.
Just ship off all your criminals?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, right? Knowing what he's been doing the past couple of years, using the military, using the police, really erasing gang culture from the country, throwing majority of them in their prisons. A lot of them just run away. Or if you are living in a country where they've basically stated, we're not tolerating
zero tolerance
anymore. You're going into prison for the rest of your life. They were walking around smashing gravestones of MS-13 because, like, we need to erase it from the culture because it's like cool to be an MS-13. It's not cool anymore. People run away.
Yeah.
Right. They're not going to stay around and let Bukele get rid of them. So I think that's what this was. I think this was Trump reminding him, like, I know you've had a really meteoric rise in our space. Don't forget, though, I'm top dog here, and America's still top dog, not you.
Yeah, he had a couple of those, too, because he also said he gave the message to Hamas, you better release the hostages before I get into office or you're going to pay bigly. Yeah.
Yeah, he did do that one. All right. Anything else on Trump's speech before we get into J.D. Vance?
I think it was a great speech, energizing. The RNC was awesome. That was entertaining. I did not expect that. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The one thing Trump can do is make politics interesting.
Yeah, definitely. He is a showman. He is a master marketer, and I've, especially in this cycle, I've come to respect that he is a very good politician. He's good at this game. This whole gamesmanship of elections and being a politician, he's good at it. For someone who says, I'm not a politician, damn it, he's good at it.
Yeah.
Right? Even in of itself, that catchphrase, I'm not a politician, is like a valuable thing to say.
Did you catch the video of him before he came out when they gave the history of Trump, of how he helped New York and New York loves him? And oh man, and they had him on Oprah, who she hates him now, and all this stuff. Oh, it was great. It was great.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's in a way, it's propaganda. It's brilliant propaganda, I have to say. All right, let's get into J.D. Vance, who Trump has picked as his vice president. I didn't know much about him, but he's growing on me.
So do you know he is the first millennial to be on a presidential ticket. We made it, boys. It's almost our turn to run this motherfucker.
He's growing on me. He's a big Lord of the Rings guy. And if you follow us, I shared how Rachel Maddow was trying to make the connection between Lord of the Rings and right-wing evil, which is insane. We've actually talked about that on the podcast before. We did our Halloween special where we were Lord of the Rings. This funny article. This wasn't as bad as Rachel Maddow, but Politico came out with this earlier today. This was a gift to us, I have to say. This caricature here of J.D. Vance as Gandalf blowing some, smoking the pipe and all that stuff. This is actually a pretty funny article. I will read a bit, and then we'll get into some serious stuff about J.D. Vance. He says, but perhaps Vance's most millennial trait is just how geeky he is about the Lord of the Rings. The trilogy of novels has been a long-standing nerd favorite for decades, but it became the center of the culture during Vance's high school years, thanks to Peter Jackson's movies. That's relatable to us, right? Because we're in the same boat, like you're just saying, millennial-wise. Vance himself has pointed to Tolkien's high fantasy epics as a window into understanding his worldview. In an archive episode of the defunct Grounded podcast from 2021 that no longer shows up in podcast feed. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
right?
It's gone.
A podcast that's gone. They have it somehow, and they're referencing it. Rep. Jim Banks of Indiana, who sat next to Vance in Trump's Friends and Family box at the convention Tuesday evening, asked Vance to name his favorite author. I would have to say Tolkien. Vance said I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy, and I think, not realizing it at the time, but a lot of my conservative worldview was influenced by Tolkien growing up. He added of Tolkien's colleague, a big fan of C.S. Lewis, really sort of like that era of English writers. I think they were really interesting. They were grappling in part because of World War II with just very big problems, which they were. We've talked about this before. The whole, Lord of the Rings story is taking inspiration from the world wars and Germany kind of being representative of Sauron and Mordor and whatnot. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there is an interesting place because it's Politico and they can't help themselves. This one paragraph here where Politico goes, but his fandom also is in tension with some of Tolkien's ideas about how nation states should approach the outside world. The books are, in many ways, anti-isolationist. So they're trying to say that Vance is an isolationist. Mm-hmm. Frodo wants to ignore the ill tidings and stay home, but eventually realizes that the Shire isn't untouched by troubles elsewhere. Like, say, NATO being pulled into defending Ukraine from Sauron, Putin. In the end, Rohan, Gondor, the elves, Ents, and dwarves all must band together and end their petty nationalist squabbles. Their lives are, they realize, interconnected. So they do try here to tie it to current events in some sort of meaningful way and frame it, at least on J.D. Vance, in a bad way. Saying, the moral of the story in The Lord of the Rings was that all the good guys put aside their differences and they united against Big Bag Sauron or Putin, for example. Which
I hate to tell you, Politico, Sauron is NATO.
That was my whole point. I'm like, we're Mordor, the United States, the Empire.
Yeah.
And the deep state is Sauron, right? If you mean to tell me that J.D. Vance is going to be against it, like we're the orcs inside the machine that want to fix Mordor from the inside out.
So is Trump and Vance Frodo and Sam?
I guess so. Maybe that'll be something we have to Photoshop going forward in the future. Yeah. Although no, Trump will have to be. I mean, Vance is, I guess, Gandalf. Trump would have to be Aragorn, the king.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So let's get serious here, though, because I thought we could start on J.D. Vance.
Yes.
With the wars, right? The wars are always the most interesting thing. I can mostly tell about you on, depending on what your position is on the wars. So there are two major wars going on. Of course, you all know Ukraine and Israel. So I got two clips of J.D. Vance being asked about both. We're going to start with Ukraine, and then we'll go over to Israel.
And you oppose aid to Ukraine. Explain your position. Well, so first of all, Jake, I think it's possible to have separate debates. In fact, congressional Republicans tried to force an Israel alone aid package just a couple of weeks ago that Democrats blocked in the Senate. So we can have separate debates. I think that we need to have separate debates. But on the Ukraine question in particular, everybody with a brain in their head, Jake, knows this was always going to end in negotiation. The idea that Ukraine was going to throw Russia back to the 1991 borders was preposterous. Nobody actually believed it. So what we're saying to the president and really to the entire world is you need to articulate what the ambition is. What is $61 billion going to accomplish that $100 billion hasn't? You have to remember, Jake, Ukraine is functionally destroyed as a country. The average age of a soldier in the Ukrainian army right now is 43. That's tragic. That's older than me. I'm 39. If this thing goes on a little bit longer, the average age of a Ukrainian soldier is going to be older than you. And then a year later, it could be a Wolf Blitzer. That is a tragedy. What does it look like?
I don't like this age graph.
I'm sorry, Jake.
I'm 54 for those wondering.
I it's to a place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just always something. They're so petty and they're so superficial in this world. Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a shot, actually, that J.D. Vance took at Wolf Blitzer. He's basically saying, like, Ukraine's going to be up to Wolf Blitzer types next. Wolf Blitzer from CNN. The anchor is like, he's an old dude. Yeah, so that's funny.
I think it's
yeah, good.
I think it's a bit ballsy for him to finally admit that, like, Ukraine's destroyed, like fundamentally destroyed, and like
there's a couple more seconds here which are key.
It's pretty. He put it pretty well. Like, your goal was to bring Russia back to, what do you say, the 90s?
91 borders. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to be functionally on the hook to pay for Ukrainian pensioners, to rebuild the entire country. Right. We need to bring the killing to a stop. And that's what American leadership should be doing, not writing more blank checks to the war.
That's pretty good. It's not perfect. Right, I don't like to talk about like the defined.
I don't like
the talk about like the defined goal, like Ron DeSantis would talk about. Like, well, the problem is we don't know what the goal is. No, the problem is that it's a war and it's bad, and we shouldn't be involved in it. That's pretty good. I think J.D. Vance has a pretty solid take on Ukraine. Any other thoughts, Cap, before we get into the next video?
Let's roll right into it.
Here's where the problems begin. right? As we've documented well on this show many times, that it appears when it comes to the wars, there is no solid anti-war position
individual
that's outside of perhaps the Libertarian Party and some few.
So is this going to be wildly pro-Israel?
Let's play it.
A lot of people recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them. That's what he did when he took out Soleimani. Hey, that action, people said that it would lead to broader war. It actually brought peace. It actually checked the Iranians and slowed them down a little bit. But let me just say something about this Iran, because important diplomatic breakthrough in the Trump administration was the Abraham Accords. If you want to check Iran, the way to do it is to, one, withdraw their oil money, which of course Joe Biden's been bad about, but you've also got to enable the Israelis and the Sunni Arab states to work together and actually provide to Iran. Joe Biden has done nothing. You have the infrastructure there, sitting there to weaken Iran, to strengthen our ally Israel. Joe Biden's done nothing with it. Donald Trump reinvigorated it. I think.
Yeah, when it comes to Israel and Iran,
I know
he's a bit hawkish on the two. I thought this was also interesting because I made the point before about the Abraham Accords, which are touted by the Trump administration as this grand achievement, as a catalyst for October 7th. And what Vance is saying here, that's great because Israel and the Sunni states are making peace. The thing is that in that area of the world, they're Arabs, and they see what's the Palestinians have been going through as being like those are their countrymen or their people. Right now, amongst the domestic populations, it's very unpopular. So while, yes, the Abraham Accords might have gone and made peace with the sock puppet kings of the Sunni countries, Jordan, and some of them that have nothing to even do with it, like Morocco and other places that are like far away. At the same time, I've said this a million times on this show, Netanyahu then, because of this, went to the United Nations, showed the picture of Israel as one solid block, and basically declared that he won and everyone else lost. That sparked Hamas to feel like we have to do something before before our chances to get anything out of this are erased. And the popular sentiment amongst Arabs in the Middle East doesn't like what's happening. So while on the one hand you're saying the Abraham Accords made peace, with the governments, but it's made enemies of the millions of people who live there in the region. And those are the people who might turn to terrorism. There's literally the in Yemen, the Houthis they just launched some sort of drone strike on Tel Aviv yesterday while this was all going on. So like on the one hand, you can't be like, well, the Abraham Accords made all peace. Yeah, but at the same time, right now, the entire region is basically engulfed in war. Like the two things don't reconcile. And it ignores the fact that, it made peace at the expense of the Palestinians, which then pissed the local population elsewhere off. Those kings are still going to be, dude, you got to understand, like those kings are still going to have to be held to account somewhat by their population, right? Like they're somewhat scared of their populations, right? Like when you're a king, power is fragile in that regard. So you have to try and keep that in mind as well. It's a very neocon, not jiving with the real world sort of view, not operating within reality, I feel. Any thoughts on that one?
The only saving grace as of now, because I don't know what Trump's gonna do with Israel once he gets into office. Clearly Israel has this power over everyone,
right?
So JD's point of view here is war hawkish, but is Daddy Trump going to allow him to do that? Probably not. You know what I mean? So as of now, it's just an opinion. But
at least he's better on the more dangerous war, the nuclear one. Yeah.
Yeah. The war that's going to bring us into World War III, the Russians in Miami, that at least he's hard on that. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I don't want to see more pro-war people in the White House.
Yeah. But again, at least he's better on the one that has the nukes pointed at each other. I know they're now they're now like trotting out that line.
Well,
about Iran with the nuke. Iran has been 6 months away from a nuclear weapon for 40
since Reagan, right?
40 plus years at this point, right? That's always the thing, and they don't have any nukes, folks.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're gonna on some level, this is just better. It's not perfect. It's not great.
Yeah,
but it's better.
It is funny to see that right before we went on that Zelensky and Trump had this phone call, and I take it as Zelensky had an oh shit moment this past week. At some point this week, Zelensky had an oh shit moment, and then it's no surprise that he called him after the RNC, took the nomination, get it, understandable. But, Trump said he's going to end this war. And by the war ending, that means the cash cow, the cash flow stops for Zelensky. So whether it was an oh shit moment when Trump got shot at, or it was an oh shit moment realizing like, wow, Trump might have this election in a bag. I better go make friends because I'll never see another dime again.
Or is it what Trump himself has said about Zelensky? He's the greatest salesman of all time.
Yeah.
Zelensky. He comes to America, and every time he does, he walks away with
$60 billion
dollars. I don't know. He's still the greatest salesman of all time, right? Maybe the first thing he did was, I need to make sure.
Negotiate with the Don.
How do I sell to the greatest negotiator of all time, right?
Yeah.
I go and I stroke his ego.
Yeah.
Right. I go, and as soon as he gets a nomination, go, congratulations. Sorry about what happened to you. It's crazy. Looking forward to looking with you in the future, if that's what it be. That's what the greatest salesman in the world probably would do. If I were him, at least, right? He's setting he's trying to make the inroads now for what's going to be definitely negotiations, talks.
Yeah.
He's going to be involved. And he's trying to set himself up to survive after that in power somehow. And so I think that's
it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. All right. Anything else, Cap, before we move on to tweets of the week? Or
the only thing, so we're talking about JD Vance, and a lot of people reached out to me, about JD. What do you think? Oh, the VP pick. And I'm really shocked at the one thing that concerns me is a lot of people haven't learned anything in the past 8 years, right? And who do you want for VP? Tulsi Gabbard's cool. Vivek I like. So JD was not on my radar. I know he's from Ohio. I see him as a pick to help Trump win the Rust Belt, Ohio, those those northern Democratic strongholds over there. That's why they had the RNC in Wisconsin, because that's probably the biggest swing state that he's definitely going to lose. I don't see any of the other swing states turning on him. And Trump's Trump. He's not going to pick anyone that's going to out-Trump him, And if you look at the vice president seat, we had Dick Cheney, who started a multi-billion-dollar 20-year war. Then we had Joe Biden, who did nothing. Then we had Mike Pence.
Hang on. Don't say Joe Biden didn't do nothing. He was the point man on Ukraine. He was integral to the entire story up to 2014.
He was as integral on Ukraine as Kamala is on the border. And we had Mike Pence. He was the evangelical vote for Trump, the Christians vote for Trump. Then we had, the worst DEI pick of all time, Kamala Harris. The vice president seat for the past 16 years has been a null and void seat, just a technicality that you have to fill. And I do think going forward, it's still just going to be a technicality of a seat that you got to fill. JD Vance is young. Is he the next king? I doubt it. Is he promising? Yes. Has he changed and has he evolved in his role in U.S. politics? Definitely. He came out swinging. I'm a never Trumper, and boom, just like that, you're on his presidential ticket. People do change. He might not be compromised. Trump's picked bad people before, but he's not going to pick anyone that's going to ever outshine him or outperform him.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. That's probably why Vivek didn't get the seat, because it was too much of a threat. Yeah. That also plays into what I was just saying about President of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele. It's like, you ain't outshining me, buddy. Don't forget, I'll put you back in your place, even if you are doing good things.
As humane as Trump's going to come off for the next month or the rest of this campaign cycle, don't get it twisted. He is still going to be
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gold gilded everything. I'm the best. Nobody does it bigger than me.
Yep.
We're the best. We're gonna win.
Dude, when he recanted the assassination attempt, it was a beautiful night. The sun was shining. It was a perfect day. I was up there speaking strongly and assertively and happily. And the funniest part, and I would love for Shane Gillis to redo Trump's speech because he is phenomenal. What he did on Kill Tony, Shane Gillis is now a god. But Trump goes, and then I got up and I raised my hand real high up in the air. Yeah. This is like talking to like one of your kids. Yeah, you jumped real high. Look how high you jumped. Very nice.
Oh man, it's we're living in a movie here, folks. All right, let's go on to tweets of the week. We got some good ones. You have any videos, Captain?
Oh, God, you should know better. I smoke too much weed. I don't remember this shit. I don't think so. These are all tweets. Matt Walsh has a great page, man.
Let's start off with yours.
Yeah.
This week.
You got to make it bigger. Oh, this one I can read. This is from Elon Musk. It's a picture of Bain, biggest, baddest, highest budget security agency on the planet, and then some guy in a pink leotard, a slightly sloped roof.
Yeah. That aspect, that makes no sense.
I mean, look, you want to tell us he's a lone gunman? Cool. You want to tell us that, you secured these areas? Cool. Do not tell me that trained ex-military units, whether they're women or men, can't stand on a roof because it's a little too slopey.
Yeah, it was the
Give me a fucking break.
Ridiculous excuse of the lot. I'm going to go to my second one, actually, because it's somewhat relevant to what we were talking about before. This one's from our favorite racist 9mm SMG. He says, Trump is a Zionist, Vance is a Zionist, Biden is a Zionist, Harris is a Zionist. Save away. Your options are a Zionist that will give you some of what you want, or a Zionist that will give you nothing you want. The Republican and Democratic parties are both entirely in love with Israel. The Democrats don't support them publicly as much, so they don't deter Muslim voters. Believing anything else is ridiculous. Want to find people in politics that don't worship Israel? Your choices are Thomas Massey and the Brown Lady Squad. None of them are running for POTUS. You're simply not going to find anyone sharing the protocols of the elders of Zion during their campaign.
The Brown Lady. Oh man, that is a great term. Shout out to Thomas Massey. Too bad he's not running or, a VP pick. But thank God the Brown Lady Coalition or whatever the hell he called them is not running for president.
Yeah.
Because that would be a nightmare.
Yeah. I talk a lot about operating in the world of reality. That is the world of reality at the moment, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's go over to you.
This, I just looked it up on my phone.
This year. Hang
on. This is a grand old one. This makes me giddy. This makes me fucking giddy. It is the Trump pose of him with his arm held high and the flag in the background, but instead it's Joe Biden and the gay pride flag in the background saying, I beat COVID.
Yeah. That's good.
Which is a conspiracy in itself. The guy comes on stage. He goes, I'm not stepping down from the presidency. I'm going to keep running unless a medical condition comes. And then like 6 hours later, he had a medical condition.
Yeah. I also saw he tweeted, it's not a tweet of the week, unless you have, but he tweeted, I'm sick.
Yes. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, that's the first real tweet from Joe Biden.
Yeah. And then hours later, they put of Elon Musk doing something in the comments. All right, let's move on to my next tweet. This is by Alaric the Barbarian. And he says, if you can't handle some fat old lady getting fired from her crappy job, how can you expect to handle deporting 10 to 20 million people? Harden your heart. This is a war, and wars aren't won with temperance. What's he talking about? He's talking about people getting canceled in the wake of the assassination. Like, there's been videos of like leftists. There was like, I think he's referencing some leftist older woman who worked at Home Depot, basically being recorded telling a customer, like, I wish Trump had gotten shot and killed.
Yes.
And then Libs of TikTok went and found out who she was, made sure Home Depot found it, and got her fired.
Good.
So now it's sparked this whole debate, at least on Twitter, of, oh my God, now we're becoming the cancel culture folks. and like we're going and canceling leftists for what they're saying. So
isn't it funny how?
Hang on, real quick. My last point is that he's making a great point. So I've been on the fence. I'm like, I don't like cancel culture, right? I don't know what side of this I think I'm on yet of this issue. This was the most compelling argument I've seen so far. And it's reminding me of something I've said. Like, if you are selling, you're going to deport 10 or 20 million people. And you're like, yeah, we should do that. Do you understand the videos, the photos, the images that are going to come out of that and how they're going to be spun? So if you're all for that, but then you have an issue with someone like Destiny tap dancing on the grave of that firefighter and then him losing his streaming ability on certain things. If you're like, no, I'm going to take a principled take on Destiny. Destiny would have you killed. He's now basically come out in support of that for opposing him. Yep. I don't think there's anything wrong with some good old cultural backlash for insane, violent positions. I'm not talking about like the government should censor you or anything like that. I'm talking about cultural backlash. You said something so
bring back bullying.
Yeah, in a sense, yes, or be mean, as we said many months ago.
This is very well put. But man, the balls on the left to imagine that they are the only people that could cancel people is outstanding.
This debate is not them. It's like principled people, good people. I'm not saying that they're assholes or anything. Good people don't like the canceling that's going on. I get it. It doesn't sit well with me 100% either. But
all right, so
where we at?
It looks like one of my tweets got that one is the exact one we just played. So that one right there that you have highlighted. Okay, this is another meme. Who's from Being Libertarian? Some people, same people, two different reactions. Gina Carano, you're right, Gina Carano.
Gina Carano, yeah.
Gina Carano fired by Disney for pointing out government-created divisiveness, and then it's the little meme person. She made her own bed. There's consequences for what you say. Then Kyle Gass from Tenacious D. Dropped by talent agencies for rooting for a successful assassination. No, Kyle didn't do nothing wrong. No, Jack Black didn't. Why didn't you defend him? The balls on these people to think that the left owns cancel culture.
I'm glad you picked this one because this is kind of an example of what I was just talking about for the principled folk who don't like the idea of canceling people for things they say. It's not a one-to-one comparison. Right, the things that leftists were canceling conservatives for is stuff like this. Gina Carano saying that the vaccine mandates were, insane and similar to some sort of Nazi, whatever she said, right? Some sort of Nazi policy or something like that. She wasn't advocating for anybody to get shot or killed or celebrating people being, dead or whatever. She was saying like, don't trample on my rights, and she was canceled for it. This guy is like celebrating people being killed and advocating again Destiny. It's not a one-to-one comparison. It's not. So even if you're trying to make a principled argument on this, but then you're spinning it as it's the same exact thing, it's still not the same exact thing. It's not the same thing people are being canceled over at the same time. It's sticky. It's gross at the end of the day. I agree. I don't like the idea of you can't say what you want, but at the same time, there are cultural backlash to saying insanely heinous things. Like I was telling our buddy Chris this. I'm like, I wouldn't support the free speech rights of Osama bin Laden. Right? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. All right. I think I'm going to save my last tweet of the week for the last one because it's a bit meaty. Let's go over to your last one.
Matt Walsh. It's going to be pretty hilarious if COVID in the year 2024 is the pretense for Biden finally dropping out of the race. I mean, the guy has a million medical conditions. You could have picked any one of them, but bringing COVID back at the end is good storytelling, I must admit.
Yeah.
The second Biden got COVID, we were like, that's it. They're taking him out. He's done. But could you imagine this man got elected in COVID? COVID has basically disappeared for, normal living Americans, not the lefty loons. And this COVID comes back,
rears its ugly head
for one final strike.
One more victim.
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Yeah. Boy, the irony of that. My goodness. All right. So my last tweet is by our good friend, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh, geez.
Today. And Benjamin Netanyahu says, the Jewish people are not occupiers in their own land. including in our eternal capital, Jerusalem, nor in Judea and Samaria, our historical homeland. No absurd opinion in The Hague can deny this historical truth or the legal right of Israelis to live in their own communities in our ancestral home. Captain, I'm going to ask you, where is Judea and Samaria? I'm asking you an honest question.
They're in Israel, yes? Aren't they on the other side?
Sure. Okay, so that's the exact response.
They're on the other side from Gaza, so the far end of Israel compared to Gaza.
That's better than most people would answer. The reason why I asked you that question is that's probably around the exact answer majority of people are going to give to this question. The answer is that Judea and Samaria are not actual real places in the moment. They're historical places. They are located in the West Bank. Benjamin Netanyahu, again, is tweeting that we have a right, the government of Israel, the state of Israel, has a right to the land in the West Bank where all the Palestinians are living. Right? He's saying out loud, but he's saying it in a very
I get. So I'm on the wrong direction,
way.
But yeah.
He's saying it in a way where he's like coding it. He's like, I don't even want to use the term, right? But like a dog whistle again, right? Like he's not outright saying it. He knows most people probably going to know what he's talking about, and they're going to read this and be like, yeah, sounds reasonable to me. You know, that they get their ancestral homeland. Yeah. But there was a group of people who they're currently at war with sitting on that land.
Yeah.
Right. And if you know anything about the history of this conflict, it all goes back to this project that he is one of the main architects of to get all of that land. He's telling you right to your face exactly what the goal of his government is. I'm not talking about every Jewish person in the world. This will be spun as anti-Semitic, though, if I'm making this point. But he's telling you to your face what his goal is. It's to get all of the land that the Palestinians are literally sitting on right this very moment. It's not to rescue the hostages or whatever other thing he might say.
It's a power move.
Yes, this is a very underhanded tweet where he's telling you exactly what he means, but he's doing it in a way that majority of normies would not understand what he's talking about. That's exactly why I asked you the way I did.
Fair enough.
All right. That is our episode.
Doom Nation. It's been another great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This week has been a hell of a week. I can't imagine next week or the week after that's going to be any different. The roller coaster has taken off on the 2024 election cycle. So, Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will be back next week with more information for you. Make sure you tune in, like, share, and subscribe. Adios.
Yeah, hopefully nothing insane happens over the weekend where we have to have another Sunday.
Yeah, emergency meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to have a calm weekend. So, adios, everybody.
See you guys later.